Well, I'd like to call this meeting to order. In first order of business, I'd like to ask Mike Cameron if he would open us up with a word of prayer.
Thank you. Let's bow. Heavenly Father, we come to worship and praise you for all you do for us. We thank you for all the 8 people that are here. We ask you to bless this year's harvest and bounty. We ask for protection for our farmers and all those ranchers and everyone who's involved in agriculture. Lead us today and guide us, give us wisdom to make great decisions. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, thank you, and so glad many members. I know we got a lot of conflicts this morning, and I appreciate the patience and attendance of the committee. Representative Stinson, I'm glad to see you here. Hope you're doing okay, and hearing our thoughts. And also, keep Tyler Paul Smith and his wife in your prayers as well. She is having a baby that's coming a little bit early, but I think all is well. So keep them in your prayers. So glad to have Courtney George sitting here next to me this morning, filling in, and Vanna, and so we'll get right into business. I've asked our Commissioner of Agriculture, Tyler, to be here this morning. I guarantee y'all he is the absolutely best Commissioner of Agriculture in the country, and I just really appreciate the great job and the energy and the work he's putting into that department. And this committee is Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, and the biggest part of his job is consumer affairs. I think that's a large part of that responsibility at that department is dealing directly with consumers. And so, Commissioner, you want to go to the podium? Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Glad to be here. Thank you for just giving us an opportunity to give y'all an overview of what's going on. I got a little slideshow we're going to throw up on the screen. First, just want to say this is my first visit to the House Ag Committee this year, so it's good to be back. I know our team was with you last week talking about HPAI, and I'm going to hit on that very briefly. But welcome back to everybody. Good to have y'all back. To the new members of the House Ag Committee, congratulations. The Ag Committees are the Furnace Committee and the General Assembly, so I think you will see that this year, and I think do a lot of great work, and we appreciate your leadership in helping our state's number 1 industry and the work that we do together to ensure the department is successful in helping our number 1 industry be successful. I'm going to Mr. Chairman, you asked to kind of give an update on what's been going on and where we are, but I'm going to start really quick. For those of you that may be new and don't know much about the department, and for those of you that have been here a while, I think it's still important to kind of just hit on just a quick, brief overview. So at the Department of Agriculture, we have over 22 different divisions. That's everything from food safety to laboratories to our communications division, our marketing division, on and so forth. We issue over 70 different licenses as an agency. That's everything from a feed license, to a metrology license, those that weigh things. We do the gas pumps and those type of things, as many of you know. We issue over 85,000 licenses last year as a department to entities all over the state. As far as our funding is concerned, a little over 80% of our funding comes from the state. We get about 20% of our funding from the feds. That's kind of how that breaks out. We have a number of attached agencies at the department, so if you look at our budget, you will see that there is a lot of pass-through money through the Department of Agriculture that goes to other entities. And so some of those entities are things like the Poultry Lab in Gainesville, the Soil and Water Commission, the Vet Diagnostic Labs. Those are just examples of entities that are part of our agency and that we send them funds every year. Just kind of brief on some of our divisions. As many of you know, farmers markets is part of what we do. I think most of you know I elevated the farmers markets to its own division. So it's its own division within the Department of Agriculture now, which I think that's important because of the focus that we need on that. Last year, the General Assembly, you appropriated us money to revamp our master plan. We are in the process of doing that. Hopefully before session is over with, my goal would be to present you that master plan for our farmers markets, primarily the Atlanta market and the produce terminal there in Atlanta. I want to thank you for the funding the General Assembly has provided us to invest in that market, specifically in Atlanta. And there's more of that in the governor's budget this time around, and would appreciate your support of that as well as we invest in the infrastructure needed for us to do our job out there. Our marketing division's been very busy too. We announced this past year, and for those of you that haven't heard, we're opening the first Georgia-grown store on Jekyll Island. It's a partnership between the department and the Jekyll Island Authority. We're really looking forward to this opportunity to put Georgia-grown products in the hands of consumers, and this is a phenomenal opportunity for us to do that. We're putting in a new innovation center in Albany. This is the second innovation center. Our first one was in Metter, and we look forward to continuing to help businesses incubate. In our labs, we tested over 40,000 different samples. Our plant protection team continues to work on the yellow-legged hornet, eradicating over 50 nests over the last 2 years, winning the National President's Award. Our work with DNR and our soil and water conservation partners through our Feral Hog Task Force has been successful, that we're expanding our pilot program to other areas of the state. And this past year, y'all helped us celebrate 150 years of the Georgia Department of Agriculture, the nation's first. So I said a lot really quick, I know, but we've been doing a lot, and that's just a very quick highlight of things that we've been working on, and without getting into specifics like the work that we've done on mental health and working with our other partners specifically related to rural Georgia and our farm families across the state. So there's a lot that we do, and we're really proud of the work that we do at the department, and thank you for your help, because your help helps us make that happen. So kind of getting into some things that we've been dealing with lately. I know y'all got a brief update on avian influenza last week, just kind of as a follow-up to that. This is the first detection in a commercial flock in Georgia. Over 35 states have already dealt with that across the country. This is the first time we've dealt with it in Georgia. This is the fifth and sixth detection of AI in our state. Matter of fact, we've had 3 detections in backyard flocks. We've had 1 detection in a commercial duck flock. This is the first detections of AI in a commercial poultry, and that's significant. Poultry makes up a little over a third of our state agricultural economy. It is big business in our state. It is a big part of our success as a state, and the reason we need to ensure that we address this as quickly as possible, which is exactly what we did. We were informed of this on late Thursday afternoon, evening on January 16th. We immediately activated our emergency operations center. We immediately got staff en route. And in less than 12 hours, we had a whole team of department employees, industry partners, and others on site. And we utilize our law enforcement division to shut the roads down. You didn't get in and you didn't get out. You didn't get in unless your name was on a list, and you didn't get out unless you verified you had been decontaminated appropriately to ensure that no spread of the virus made it in or out of that particular area. Biosecurity is paramount in these situations, and it's important that we do that. I think another critical component is within 48 hours, we were able to completely contain and address through depopulation, and we quarantined all the farms in the surrounding area in less than 12 hours. And our team began testing the control area, and within 24 hours we had completed all the testing of every farm in that control area, which is 6.2 miles or 10 kilometers, which was over 100 farms that our team working with the poultry lab and others had tested. So the fact that we moved fast was critical, and I think that's the key point here, is because of the efforts that we've put in place with our EOC and other things, we were able to act fast. At times, there were over 150 people working on this particular case and this situation, but it is ongoing. We have cleaned and disinfected one location. We're in the process of working on the other, and hopefully by the end of this week, first part of next week, we'll have most of that wrapped up. But we're in a really good place, and things are moving in the right direction. It's no... And on AI, really quick, we are asking for some additional resources that we didn't know we needed until we had the AI event, and that request is in the budget, or we're asking for that in the budget, and we'll be diving off into that with our appropriate friends in the Appropriations Committee, and would ask for your support on that as well. It's no secret Hurricane Helene was devastating to our state, over $5.5 billion worth of damage. At the department, we had about 50 employees of our agency that were committed to this effort over 3 weeks of deployment. Obviously, any of these emergency events like AI or even a hurricane, it takes our employees away from their day-to-day jobs, and they have to. They're focused on that emergency response at that time. So that does put some strain on our agency at times. But it's we know that is a critical part of what we do as an agency in helping address those emergency situations as they arise. For those of you that don't know, the Department of Agriculture is part of the state operations emergency management hierarchy. We man what's called ESF 11, Emergency State Function 11. And so anytime GEMA activates on a full activation, we're part of that. Another example of where we're part of that is during the college football national championship that was held here in Atlanta. Not all agencies were called into the SOC, but we were as the department because of our role in food security. And so anytime they activate, we man our particular position in the State Operations Center. The hurricane is an example of that. So there's a lot of work that we do through the SOC. In a lot of cases that a lot of people don't even know that we're doing. And our team at the department works to ensure that helps us every single day, and our emergency management team does a phenomenal job in helping make that happen, as well as our staff and our employees. Obviously, in response to Hurricane Helene, we've been doing a lot. Safety 24 is the loan program we put together. $100 million was set aside, 25 for forestry, 75 for ag loans. Just to give you an update, of the $75 million, all of that, for all practical purposes, is committed. We have received 322 applications at the Development Authority, totaling about little over $121 million in asks, and that was basically after we shut the application processes down. So far, we've approved almost 80 of those applications are on the way out the door, and we're constantly approving applications regularly to get the resources where they need to be in the hands of our producers, and so we're obviously asking for some additional resources in that as well, and look forward to working with y'all to ensure that our farm families can continue to be successful. The Weather But Strong program was very successful as well, thanks to all the ag organizations as well as Farm Bureau for taking on that administrative burden. Right now, they're in the process of issuing out a little over about $1.8 million to those farm families and private funds raised, and I think that was an awesome opportunity. As all of you know, last year we passed Senate Bill 494, which deals with the hemp program. Thanks to your help, we've been able to establish a regulatory framework for hemp in our state that allows this industry to be successful and get rid of the bad actors and address the black market. That was what we did, and also to protect consumers and kids across our state. So thank you for your help. We've published and adopted 2 sets of rules. The reason we did 2 sets is in our first set we got a lot of feedback from those impacted, and we went back and addressed some of those concerns and rolled that out in our second set of rules. So now we're fully in the process of obviously education and outreach about the new law. Our team members are constantly talking to groups about what the law is. It went into effect this past October. We're constantly responding to requests at our public email address. We've put a lot of information on the website and links. We received almost 11,000 licenses when our license portal went open. So far, we have issued almost 5,000 of those licenses have been issued by the department. And then oftentimes it takes us 4 or 5 iterations to get through those 5,000 licenses. So that means we touched things about 20,000 times to get those licenses out the door, to put it in perspective. About 5,000 applications are in that same process right now. We're having to retouch them. So we've issued 5,000. We got about 5,000 that we're back and forth with the licensee trying to get their information correct. And we only have about 700 or so that are in the queue that we haven't touched, that hopefully by the end of this week we'll have touched all of them, because we've been issuing about 1,500 licenses a week. And so we should have that addressed. Inspections have been ongoing. We've been going to facilities constantly and inspecting their hemp products and ensuring that they're in compliance with the law. And in cases that they haven't, just like last week, we have destroyed product on site. We are doing what we told you we would do. We're protecting the consumers, we're protecting the public, and we're going to ensure that the folks are abiding by the law that you helped put in place to ensure that this industry can be successful, but also ensure that our consumers can be protected. So we're doing that constantly, and we are obviously in the budget, we're asking for some additional resources to help us in that effort, and we would appreciate your support in that as well. As many of you know, I stood up our law enforcement division. When I become commissioner, I reinstated that division, and we've been building out that team using some funds that we have internally, but thanks to our division director over that particular arena, who has a lot of knowledge of grants, and because of his previous job and role, we have also secured a number of grants to help us fund our law enforcement emergency management divisions. We've been able to invest that money and address those issues, whether it's human trafficking or ag labor trafficking or other issues related to animal cruelty. Theft, cattle theft, honeybee theft, believe it or not, is something we've had to deal with, and we've worked to address. A couple of recent cases, we working with our internal team and others, we addressed a puppy mill case in Pierce County. We seized 136 dogs off of that particular facility. That case is still open and ongoing. I will tell you, though, based on preliminary reports we have from the vet, you have everything from broken bones to complete neglect in regards to those animals, and that's one of those things that we're taking a hard stand against. We're not going to tolerate animal cruelty. We're not going to tolerate those issues at the department, and our team is working hard to address those. Another case that we worked come to us from the state of Arkansas. Their Department of Ag Law Enforcement Division reached out and asked us to assist after they tracked a horse theft ring back to the state of Georgia. It was a multi-state ring between Arkansas, Georgia, and South Carolina. It was very sophisticated. They were using deception, significant deceptions, and through financial transactions and how they were stealing the horses. Long story short, we found the perpetrators and the horses here in the state of Georgia, and we turned them back over to the Arkansas Department of Agriculture for their prosecution. So we were able to address that. Our law enforcement team helped them solve that case and address that and ensure that those victims got what they needed. I've told you all about these two cases. Representative Meeks, I don't know why, but Pierce County seems to be hot on these slides. But as many of you know, last year, about this time last year, there was a facility that was under the cover of a fish food processing facility. Our team, working with the Pierce County Sheriff's Office, worked that jointly. It was after about a month-long investigation, we oversee food processing facilities. This facility did not have a license from us, so we knew something was fishy too, no pun intended. And so we ended up obtaining search warrants and went into the facility and seized over $22 million worth of marijuana in an indoor marijuana grow. The key here, though, is the there were 4 people on site. All 4 were Chinese nationals. 1 of the 4 was an illegal. 3 of the 4 had papers. And there was a 5th person involved that actually owned the land who was a Chinese national. They skipped country and went back to China before we could get our hands on them. But 4 of the 5 have been arrested, and they're currently awaiting their processes, and we've been coordinating with the Sheriff's Office as well as our federal partners, DEA and others, on that case. All of you, I hope, know about the methamphetamine case at the Atlanta State Farmers Market. We seized almost 2,600 pounds of methamphetamine and a shipment of celery that came to us directly from Mexico across the border, straight to the Atlanta State Farmers Market at the produce terminal here, working with our federal partners and others via a tip. Our law enforcement team partnered with them and worked this case, and we were able to address that and seize it. And then I condemned the entire load of celery because, believe it or not, that celery was bound for the grocery store seal, even after they took the drugs out of it. And we found drug residue in some of the containers that the drugs weren't even in, that was bound for the grocery store at all as well. And so for me, that's a concern. That's a food safety issue. Not only are they undercutting farmers, because the Mexican cartel, they don't care what they get for their product that they're selling. They use agriculture as a way to wash their money. So they undercut our producers in America and in Georgia by selling product below market rate. The other thing that they do is they can contaminate that product, and if it ends up on a grocery store shelf, that's a problem. And if that's fentanyl and a young kid touches that, we got a significant issue on our hands, and that's the reason our law enforcement and our team at the market is stepping up our efforts. One other one I'll brief you on really quick. I didn't know that I was going to be able to talk about this one because it is so recent, but we had some developments overnight that have given me the opportunity to brief you a little bit. We had a facility in our state that was broken into. All the hemp oil and CBD oil that was in that facility was stolen. We have 3 suspects. One of the suspects last night was arrested in Texas. We have 2 of our law enforcement officers are on their way to Texas as we speak to go interview that particular suspect. Obviously, we hope to get the other suspects in custody very soon, but that particular case is ongoing. It is an ongoing investigation, but it is a significantly concerning issue because we have product that was stolen that we are trying to find now. And that causes us a significant concern. But thanks to your help, we're able to address those issues, and we're working to address that one right now. So we have team members on their way to Texas to work on that particular case. All of you know about electric vehicles. That is part of what we do now. We purchased with the legislation you passed and some funding you gave us, we were able to purchase some equipment. This past year, we purchased it in May, but we didn't receive it till December. So it's kind of put us a little behind in getting things going. But we're building out a prototype right now, a test rig that we are building to be able to take around to these particular sites. But we're also partnering with Georgia Tech, and this partnership's been phenomenal, and they're helping us ensure that we get what we need to be able to do the job we've been asked to do and be able to test the chargers. So the electricity you pay for is the electricity you get, no different than the gas that you pay for is the gas that you get. And we look forward to those continued partnerships. And obviously, we're working with Georgia Tech on alternative testing methods and alternative monitoring methods using their expertise and their engineers and others, and it's been a phenomenal partnership between us and Tech. The Farmland Conservation Council that y'all helped us pass a couple of years ago and y'all helped us fund this past year, as many of you know, I just want to give you a brief update on that. Representative Huddleston actually sits on that council with us. We started our meetings this past fall. The council has been appointed. We are in the process of recommending the rules, working with the council, the department in the process of drafting the rules, and the next step is to draft the application and put those applications out so we can protect farmland right here in the state of Georgia just like they do in other states around the country. This is going to be very successful, and we look forward to working to protect ag land for ag use in Georgia, and that's what this council is for, and that's what this council is about. Mr. Chairman, I know I said a lot, and I probably took more time than I should have, but This is just a snippet of what we do at the Department of Agriculture every single day, and a brief overview of some of the things we've been dealing with just in the last year. This does not cover everything that we do every single day as an agency that our over 500 employees do. And I'm proud of the work that our agency does, that our employees do, and that our team members do, because the work that we do ensures that our number one industry is successful every single day, and working with you, we can make sure that that's the case. So thank you for giving me a brief moment to give you an update on what we're doing, what's going on, and why it's important for us to continue to ensure that our number one industry is successful, and the work that we do at the department can continue. And with your help and your help of obtaining resources, we can do a lot more together. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Glad to be here, and I'll be happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Commissioner, for being here. Thank you for all you do. I know your department's always had a lot of responsibility, but as the committee can see, you've really taken on additional responsibilities, especially at hemp and food safety issues. Very, very important. So thank you for your initiative in doing that. And thank you very much. We won't have any questions, but thank you for
Yes, sir.
Commissioner's very accessible, he and his department, and if you've got any questions, he's very available, and we can put you in touch with whoever you need to if you got any constituent issues there. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for your making Georgia a great place to farm and for our consumers.
Yes, sir. Happy to do it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to be with you.
We've got 3 bills, and I'm going to get right into that if we can. Chairman Cooper has got HB 91. If you want to come to the table, Chairman, and present. Chairman, we got some new members on this committee, some new legislators, and I'll tell you, Chairman Cooper's been around this building for over 25 years and is a wealth of information and a wealth of energy. One of the hardest working, knowledgeable members on and if you don't know Chairman Cooper, I hope you new people get to know her. She's not shy about sharing what she thinks and where things ought to be. And I got a question for you. Is this your first time presenting a bill in the Agricultural Committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Well, this committee is very privileged to have you over here. I've never presented a bill in your committee either in my 15 years, thank goodness. So I hope this committee is friendly to you this morning.
Well, I'll try to be as kind to you. You have been to me about saying such nice things about you. It's taken me 29 years to get here. Now, I will tell you that I spent 5 years on the committee that traveled Georgia, our rural areas, learning about the needs in rural Georgia, and it was a great experience. I saw a lot of our state, and I learned a lot about what is needed, not only in medical issues, but when it comes to veterinarians. And this is a vet bill, so I bring to you the substitute to House Bill 91. Just like in medicine, well, first I ought to say, pets have basically become family members to many of us, and we want them to live as long as they can to be with our family, and we want them to be able to receive specialized care when they need it, just like in medicine. And just like in medicine, we have a major shortage of board-certified specialists. If you've tried to see a cardiologist lately or a neurologist to treat many of our children, you find that you can't get an appointment for maybe a couple of months, and that's in the metro area. It's even worse out in the rural areas of our state. Well, it's the same for vets. So what this bill would do is allow foreign graduates of foreign medical schools that if they have met the requirements that we require of our graduates to become board certified, that they could be licensed in the state of Georgia. And to be board certified, you have to have graduated from a vet school that is approved by, and that would be for the foreign graduates also, for a couple of board certified foreign schools that they allow. You have to have a year's internship before you can take the 2 to 3 years of the schooling for to become board certified in a specialty area. And there are specialized vets in cardiology, in big animal internal medicine, in small animal internal medicine, in neurology, in oncology. So there's a whole ramification of that. And at the end of that, there is an exam that you have to pass before our associations that say that a person is board certified. You have to pass their exam, whether you're a graduate of one of our schools or a foreign board graduate, to practice as a specialist in veterinary medicine. And this is what that bill does. If a foreign graduate meets all these requirements and passes the board by one of our certifying associations, like the American Veterinary Medical Association, the American Board of Veterinary Specialists, and so forth, you can practice in the state as a board certified specialist. That's what it does. I'll be glad to answer questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the chairman? So this bill just, what's the condition now? Foreign vets cannot practice in the United States at all now?
No, not in the United States. A lot of other states do allow them to practice, and just as a regular vet. It's a problem that we have in our state for if you just want to be a regular vet
Right.
and move to Georgia and you graduated from foreign medical school, it's pretty much impossible, if not impossible, to do that in Georgia. And many states do use them because there's a shortage of veterinarians. We are a state of almost 12 million people, and much of it's in rural areas. And just like medicines, there's a huge shortage. It's harder to get in vet school now than it is to get in medical school because there's so few veterinary medicine schools. And one of the things that this bill would help is that we do allow, from a very specialized waiver type thing through the veterinary medicine board, we have a way for foreign vets that are board certified to be able to teach in our vet school, but they can't practice anywhere else. And it's a rigmarole that they go through. We have the same problem with our medical school. And the Medical College of Georgia wanted to hire one of the leading ophthalmologists in the world for a very specialized area, but he was a graduate of a foreign medical school. And it took a couple of years to get him a specialized license. So there's a need for these. There's a need for more vets, and if they're from a qualified veterinary school, we need them just to be able to practice veterinary medicine regular, which this bill does not touch. But we also need these specialists.
Okay, thank you. We've got you've got several questions if you're willing to answer those.
Okay, well, and the head of the Veterinary Association here in Georgia is with me. If I can't answer it, or if you'd like to ask her any questions, I can ask her to come
All right,
up.
let's see. Chairman Camp, is that you?
That's me. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chairman Cooper, for being here today. This is an interesting bill for a number of reasons, but reading through
That's
it,
you.
couldn't it be an opportunity also for a United States citizen who just happened to attend medical school in a foreign country?
Very definitely.
All right.
In fact, I think the representative from the Veterinary Association was talking about an American who went to vet school in Scotland and had gotten a license in Florida, but still, from the rigmarole to get a special waiver here, it took like 6 months or so. So it is very complicated, even for our own Americans who graduate from a foreign medical school.
All right, thank you. If I could just follow up, just to make a comment. I know there's someone that's in an area that was my district, but now is your district, Chairman Dickey, who actually is in veterinarian school in Grenada right now. Had a challenging time trying to get into any veterinary school because all the slots were filled. So thank you so much for bringing this bill.
Okay, Chairman Meeks, is that you?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Chair, thank you for bringing this today. Does the American Veterinary Medical Association maintain a list of those, I'll say, accredited schools from other foreign schools so that we know as they're applying which ones, I'll say, are accredited in whatever country they're located in?
They do. They have a list. I can't name what the list is. It's just like if you apply to get a license here in medicine.
Yes, ma'am.
Each state has a copy of the list of the schools that are approved.
Right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Osteen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Camp and Chairman Meeks have addressed two of the things that I was going to ask, but I think this is a great thing to do to solve the short-term problem of getting us an immediate need. I'm just curious, what are we doing to expound the education system, and you might not know the answer to this, so that we can get more of our students that want to be veterinarians, to Chairman Camp's point. And my daughter-in-law was one of those who wanted to be a veterinarian at UGA. She had an animal science degree, had a 3.7, worked for the veterinary department for 2 or 3 years and never could get in. And I want to know, what are we doing to expand the opportunities for our students to be able to go to veterinary school?
Well, I haven't heard of any in Georgia. I think that would be a good thing. We have one vet school. We've now added several medical schools in our state, and there's going to be a new one up
2026.
in Athens, and we only had one dental school, and it was very competitive to get in it. Now we're going to have a new one. Seems like to me we're on a roll, and there's several people here that live in South Georgia, and where there's a big need for big animals and all, and I would suggest they use their influence, that maybe in a couple of years when maybe we would be saying we're going to have a new vet school, because there's certainly a need for them, and they're all over the South. There are some new vet schools starting across the country, but not here in the state of Georgia.
Very good answer, Chairman Cooper.
Thank you.
We
So,
are.
well, I'll be glad to support. I'll be glad to support that. I mean, humans first and human medicines is a passion with me. But I'm a pet owner, and my corgis, and they're pretty important to me. And I will say I have had a corgi that had a neurological problem, and I did. We have maybe 3 or 4 specialists here in the state that are neurologists, and I did take my puppy to that neurologist. So pets are very important to us. They add a lot to our lives, and especially as we live in a more isolating type of environment as far as real, true human interaction, not just on using Zooms and our phones. Pets are becoming more and more important to people.
Okay,
And so,
we've
thank
got a
you.
couple more bills.
Sorry.
Chairman Darlene Taylor, if you could answer a question,
Sorry.
and we might have to move on after this.
I'll be quiet.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to do, was thank the lady for bringing the bill and how important it is.
I'm sorry.
And at the appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion.
Well, I think I'm going to ask Chairman Cooper to come back next week. I think we're in a hearing only today.
Thank you.
We got 3 bills. Thank you for that. But if you'll hold that till our next meeting next Wednesday, I hope. Can you come back next week?
Sure. Is it an
Okay.
8 o'clock meeting?
Okay. If anybody's got any other questions, the chairman is very available on the House floor if you can keep up with her walking around. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you to the committee for hearing it.
Next, I want Chairman Petrie to come and present his HB 117. And I think we've got a couple of people signed up to speak to this bill behind you as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Morning to you and all the members here. Chairman, bring you today House Bill 117. And with your permission, I'm going to try to be as brief as I can, but what I want to do is begin by kind of framing the problem and telling you some things that I doubt most of your members are aware of. So as most of you here know, I represent the Georgia coast, Chatham and Bryan counties on the coast. and I grew up there my whole life, obviously very involved with seafood. Americans love seafood. We eat a lot of seafood. 80% of that seafood is imported, you may not know. And of course, I'm going to focus most of my comments today on shrimp first to just frame the issue, and then I'll talk about the bill. Shrimp is the big eye. The average American eats over 4 pounds of shrimp a year. That's a lot of shrimp. 94% of that shrimp consumed in the U.S. is imported. 94%. Now, we have one of the safest, the cleanest, and the best fisheries in the world right here in America, but 94% of our shrimp is imported. Where is it coming from? Primarily India, number one, China, Ecuador, Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia. If y'all have eaten shrimp in the last week or so on one of these nights after session, more than likely it's from India or China. Well, here's what consumers need to know about that product. That shrimp is overwhelmingly pond-raised and man-made, shallow-dug ponds. It is government subsidized, okay? So there's not a level playing field with American fishermen. It's government subsidized. Think of China and government control. And the most important thing I'm here to talk to you about today, and what really matters on this bill, is this. Those countries do not adhere to our domestic health standards, period. So the FDA, meanwhile, which is responsible for testing those imports, tests, and I hope y'all will write this down, 0.7% of foreign shrimp is tested. 0.7% of foreign shrimp is tested by the FDA. And meanwhile, by the way, I need to tell you, let me find this note here. The FDA achieves that inspection rate is less than 5% of congressionally mandated inspections on foreign food facilities. So they're failing by their own admission. Now, why do we care about where these shrimp are coming from? Well, because antibiotics and other drugs are often found in these shrimp, particularly from two countries. India, our number one importer, and Vietnam are the most prevalent for antibiotics. So why do these shrimp have antibiotics and other drugs in them for infection? Well, because of intensive farming. These shrimp are farmed. They're not wild caught like I spent my whole life doing on the Georgia coast. They don't even live in the ocean, folks. They're pond raised. They're packed into these ponds, swimming in their own feces. And so guess what happens? They get diseases. So they treat them with antibiotics and other drugs to halt the diseases. Now, I'm getting to a point here. I need to also tell you there's pesticides and antifungals that are discovered in those shrimp. And I told you about all of that's health related. I do need to mention another thing to you that's really unrelated, but I think you should know this, particularly if you'll Google this. And there's a great report on shrimp, if you ever want to learn more, that was done by Consumer Reports that all of us, I think, respect on shrimp. You can Google that. A lot of good data there. But some of these countries, particularly Thailand, have famously been found to be using human trafficked labor for their shrimp farming. That's an aside. So at any rate, in spite of dramatically lower, as I just described, so that 0.7% inspection is dramatically lower than domestic products. Okay, we do a pretty good job of inspecting domestic food facilities. It's dramatically lower. In spite of that, they have dramatically higher failure rates. So, just last year, okay, the FDA refused 81 shipments, massive quantities of shrimp due to antibiotics. Just last year, 81 lines from overseas. Now remember, that's them inspecting 0.7% of the shrimp coming in. How much you reckon made it that wasn't caught? So, the last thing I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to talk about the bill, is this. Some facilities, you'd probably be interested to learn, have never been inspected. We have foreign food processing plants that import to the United States, particularly in China, that do not allow the FDA to do inspections and have never, capital never, have ever been inspected by the FDA. But they're still importing millions of tons of shrimp to the country every year. So those are the things that I think consumers have a right to know, okay? And then consumers can make their own decision about what they choose to buy. So now, having told you that, let's talk about the bill. So if you'll look online, obviously, first of all, we're at this point, in this iteration of this measure, we're talking about all seafood. And I just explained how overwhelmingly that is shrimp. But 80% of seafood in the aggregate is imported. 94%, as I said, of shrimp, the big product, is imported. But here's what this bill is asking to do. In light of all that I just described, very simple in lines 14 through 16. On that menu, in a food service establishment, be transparent and let the people know where their food is coming from. If your shrimp is from India, you may be interested to know that now in light of what I just told you. Our biggest issue with antibiotics is India and Vietnam. It seems to me that a parent might want to know that when they're feeding their family in a restaurant. We have federal law, we have the COOL Act that requires country of origin in groceries, as the chairman knows well. But we don't have any such protection in food services because they're regulated on a state basis, right? And so we haven't done that yet. We should. The people should know where their food is coming from, and especially with the product, seafood is the most significant risk related to health when you think about a food product. And so, at least in that subset, people should know where their food is coming from. And so what this bill will very simply do is require conspicuously in that food service establishment. We probably need to carve out in here, this is the first iteration, so we probably need to carve out some state institutions, things of that nature that aren't really a commercial food service, but they're still regulated that way. There's tweaks we can do there. But at the end of the day, I think you understand what I'm trying to do is create transparency. We're talking about nationally right now, Make America Healthy Again. It seems to be the perfect time to be addressing a bill like this. You can't really become healthy if you don't know what you're eating. And I think the people have a right to know. Even on the Georgia coast, I'm going to sadly tell you something. My family have been on the Georgia coast since the Revolution, and I'm going to tell you something, it breaks my heart. You come to Savannah to visit me, most of the shrimp you're eating down there is pond-raised imported shrimp, if you're in a restaurant. Because it's dumped here, it is dumped here intentionally by foreign countries to drive down the cost and to destroy the American fishery. Our shrimping fleet is 10% of what it was. 10%. Less than 5% of American shrimp is domestic. And we have any of y'all ever eaten Georgia wild shrimp? If you have, please raise your hand. You'll never eat a better anything in your life. That's better than a ribeye steak, man. And everybody knows that. But this is the issue. The issue is called. Now listen, consumers have a right to make their own decisions. It's not my job to tell people what to eat. I believe it is my job to let people know what they're eating. And that's what this bill is all about. My friends, I'm working closely with the Restaurant Association. They're lovely people. I understand their concerns. I'm a lifelong businessman and an entrepreneur. I don't want to put a burden on industry. But I will tell you, the pushback is about, well, it's going to be too expensive to put this on menus. I don't know that I buy that. Most of the menus I see today, I get aggravated because I have to use this to figure out what it is. So I don't know that I buy that argument, but I do respect them and I appreciate them and I appreciate that industry. Many of my close friends have restaurants. So I appreciate their concerns. I want to hear them and I've talked to them and I want to help them to compromise to make this appropriate. But I think people have a right to know what they're eating. That's what this bill's all about, Mr. Chairman. I hope that explains my concern.
Thank you. You do have a couple of questions. I've got a question first. Who will enforce this if this bill were to pass?
Public health through the environmental health specialists that work under public health inspect restaurants in this state. So what I would imagine is if this became law, it would go into rules and regs under public health regulation of food service facilities. When they inspect a restaurant, they would look, while they're in there, they would look at a menu. It says the shrimp is from India. They would go into that freezer and discover that, yes, it's from India. Now, here's the bigger challenge, and you see this all over the country. Again, if you Google, you can learn so much. You can look up a recent study that was done in Galveston, Texas. Most of the restaurants there in Galveston, again, another coastal town, were suggesting they were serving domestic shrimp. They were not. It was tested. And so if a restaurant says this is Georgia wild shrimp or this is domestic shrimp, doesn't matter. You shouldn't see a label from India in the freezer. So that's what's going to happen as you build this out. If we change the law, that department of public health will have to have a rule change in their standards for food service establishments.
Okay. Thank you for that answer. Representative Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Chairman. Just hearing the inspection rates you're talking about, do you have any national security concerns that one of these countries, not that China would do it, would intentionally contaminate
Yeah, my friend, I think that's a great point. I don't know that. I haven't contemplated that. But who knows that today with our relationship with again, a communist regime that really is dictating whether we can even inspect food that is being imported to the American people. Haven't thought about that, but a great point, I believe.
Representative Lewis Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to help me for my understanding.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would think that restaurants are not obligated to only purchasing their shrimp from one country. They have the option.
Correct.
So if they change every 6 months or month to month, would that mean that they would have to update their menus?
Well, yes, ma'am. Yes, Representative. Thank you for the good question. This measure, as written currently, this bill would require country of origin. So, yeah, so if you were serving shrimp from India this week, and then it was from Vietnam next week, yeah, that menu would note Vietnam or India or China. And so, yes, as currently written, that is correct.
Okay. Representative Donahue, what number are you, 16?
16.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for bringing a bill that's one paragraph, something that's simple and basically gets to the point. Is it not true that more than 90% of all shrimp eaten in America is imported, as you said, from India, 40.8%, Ecuador, 27.8%, Indonesia, 16.9%, Vietnam, 6.6%. And our industry has slowly started to disappear. Families have gone out of the business. And because of this, thank you for bringing the bill. And in restaurants, they change their menus weekly sometimes with the prices that are going up.
Correct.
They can buy this much cheaper without going through all the testing that our normal shrimp from Georgia comes from. Thank you again. I appreciate it, and I'll expect this year about 4 or 5 pounds of that good shrimp we have.
Thank you.
Let's see, who else? Representative Ford? Are you 16? No.
17. When we were talking about this, I was just thinking about, so are there issues with overfishing on the Georgia coast?
Absolutely not.
I mean, would there be if we started limiting and started restricting this more and testing it? And would there be issues with overfishing?
Excellent question. So my answer is no. But remember, first of all, this bill's about transparency. My desire to see our domestic industry grow is also true, but this bill directly relates to transparency. But to your point, so we're producing domestic, not just Georgia, but domestic shrimpers are producing 5% of U.S. consumption. We can't produce all of it, to your point, to your very good question. But can we produce 20%? Absolutely. We used to. We used to produce a lot more than that. Now remember, the demand has grown. So Americans are eating more shrimp today than ever. Americans love shrimp, and I know why. I ate more. I don't know how much I ate on Saturday, but we all love shrimp, right? So we can't provide 100% of the demand of the supply that would meet the demand in America, but we could darn sure provide much more than 5% because there's a fraction, and as Representative Donahue just alluded to, the remnant of our shrimping fleet in this country that remains, and it is a remnant, will soon be gone. It's almost gone. And here's the problem with that, and this is something that'll resonate with my good friend here, the chairman. When you lose all of that knowledge and that history and that experience of generations of fishermen, and the shrimp boats are all gone because there's no demand, they're gone.
Yeah.
And so when you do have a supply disruption, or you do have a country like China that stops it, you don't have the ability to shrimp because you've lost it. And so we're almost to that point where we've like I say, it's 10% of what it was in this country. That's a shame.
We're aware.
Okay,
Same.
we're going.
Very similar to farming.
Okay, we're going to take one more question, then we're going to hear from the Restaurant Association. Thank you, Chairman Camp.
Thank you so much, Chairman Petrie, for bringing this. And I do love Georgia caught shrimp. I'm going to be really honest with you. They're delicious. I did a quick Google search. National Institute of Health supports exactly what you're saying about antibiotics, a number of antibiotics being found in shrimp. Additionally, it looks like the European Union has also banned and rejected any seafood that comes from other countries that have antibiotics for their health. And just recently, well, as early as last year, Japan has done the same thing. So this is really just kind of keeping us in line with the first world countries by protecting our individuals. Is that not true?
Chairman Camp, that is a well-made point. I didn't have time to get to everything. Absolutely. The European Union is sending shrimp back. Japan is sending shrimp back because of these same issues that I raise. Yes, ma'am. It's being noticed across the
Okay,
across the globe.
thank you, Chairman Petrie. I appreciate you bringing this bill. If any members got any questions, him, they can find him. I want to ask Stephanie Fisher of the Restaurant Association. I know we're at 9. Other members got this is hearing only, but we'll be back next week. So wanted to hear from everybody. Ms. Fisher, if you would tell us a little bit about your opinion on this bill.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Chairman Dickey and committee. My name is Stephanie Fisher. I'm the president and CEO of the Georgia Restaurant Association. We represent over 24,000 restaurants here in the great state of Georgia. Before I get started, I also want to just thank Chairman Petrie for his willingness to work with us on this bill. So I want to say that. And as we support Chairman Petrie's push for transparency, we do have some concerns over the implementation of the bill as it's written right now. So, as we all know, we just heard 90% of our seafood, 80 to 90% of our seafood is imported. If we are expecting restaurants to list country of origin on their menu for every menu item, they possibly could be changing their menu every week, every 2 weeks, every month, depending on the amount of seafood that you have on your menu. Country of origin can change week by week, day by day, actually. So for us, it's the mandate to list this on the menu, and then the cost it would be a burden on our restaurants. Some restaurants, yes, they print their menu in the back and they can, quickly change it. But a lot of our restaurants spend money on professionally designing their menus, getting them printed, and from a couple $100 every time you print your menus, if you do that once a month, twice a month, that is actually that's a big burden on our restaurants. Our profit margins, as it stands right now, just with everybody, is somewhere from 3 to 7%. So this is just an added cost. For our larger chains, this probably won't be such an issue because they have buying power. They, purchase seafood, they know where it's coming from, and they've got that time period. I Googled also, we have approximately 60 to 70% of our restaurants here in the state of Georgia are independents. So that means they are small independents. They could have anything from, 1 to 2 restaurants up to, 17, whatever it is. But if you're having to change your menu every week, small independents, it's a burden. And so I just, that's our biggest issue with this. I think we can definitely work with Chairman Petrie to figure something else that works for everybody. Again, we are all for transparencies. We want to make sure that bad actors are held accountable, but we just would like to see just a little change.
Thank you for that. I see one question from Representative Willis.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. About what percentage of menus in these, I know that a lot of, you said 60 to 70% of our restaurants are independently owned, but it seems to me that most of the menus, because I have senior parents who hate them, are digital. And so potentially making updates could be digitally implemented unless I'm ill-informed. And then the second part of that is oftentimes in a restaurant, they have placards, printouts, things like that.
Yes.
So the specificity around the method of notice or method of updating isn't hammered down here, but could these things not be updated digitally to offset the cost that you speak of to the restaurants?
Yes, it depends ultimately on what we end up doing. So, and I will tell you, there was a new study that just came out that said people hate QR codes. So, just putting it out there. So, but no, we definitely there's other avenues to inform our guests of what they're eating. Definitely.
Are there any other questions? Thank you for being here. Thank you for your testimony.
Great. Thank you very much.
We're going to move on. We got one more bill. I apologize for the hour, but we've heard some good things here. I want to ask Representative Ridley to come present HB 163. We've got another food product to discuss here this morning. We got the Ridley brothers here, a double team. This is, hold on, folks. The mic's yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We figured if one's good, two's better, so we're here today, and much like Chairman Petrie's bill, ours just is about labeling in restaurants, and ours is not focused on seafood, but cell-cultured meat made in a lab. This isn't imported. This stuff's made here in the United States, but it's made in a lab where they're cloning cells. We just want transparency when people are eating that or consuming it, that they know what they're getting. It's already required to be labeled in grocery stores, much like seafood. We're just asking for restaurants to label it as well. So again, one paragraph, simple and to the point, and well, I think Jason has a few comments as well.
Well, that's where we're going to ban it altogether. If you're not familiar with lab-grown meat, it's a heck of a process. They take animal tissue and they separate out the fat, put it in a biometric meter, and they grow it over time in a petri dish. One cell can end up with 100,000 hamburger patties. That's what they come up with. It used to not be that big. 2013, 14, it was like about $325,000 for that first one. Now it's getting to be where it's about $10 a patty. So it's starting to get now where you're going to start seeing it in some restaurants. There's 2 in California that the FDA has already approved to start distributing it commercially. So this is what we're done. This has already been banned in Alabama, Florida, Italy, Iowa. It's a complete ban. Tennessee and Arizona currently is already banning it. There, it's already passed the House in Arizona, now it's in the Senate. Tennessee's looking at this year as doing an outright ban on it because basically nobody knows what the health ramifications is going to be from it. So that's kind of what our bills, we had this last year and kind of got lost, but that's kind of what the bill does.
The author did have this bill last year. We did not hear it and move it last year, but thank you for bringing it back this year. I think, in my opinion, the awareness of this is heightened in the past year all around our country. I've been to some ag meetings, and this is a topic of discussion in other states, and so I think it's very timely. This committee considers this bill too, and again, this is only labeling the product in the grocery stores of what it is. Okay. Any questions? Representative Willis.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So quick question. When we see plant-based, when we buy a product, or if you're in a restaurant, it says plant-based burger, veggie burger, whatever, is this a same indication? Would it say, if I'm in a restaurant, then would it say, what is this, cell
Cell-cultured meat, yes. It would
It would
label
say
that it's
cell,
cell-cultured.
that's not very appetizing, but it would say cell cultured meat
Yes, ma'am.
patty as an item, so it's noticed in the same form on the menu.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and is there any data, and I'll look this up, is there any data around the health ramifications of cell cultured meat?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, everyone's talking about Google today. You just Google lab-grown meat and health issues, and there's a lot of studies out there saying it's too new. The cloning process where they create these cells can go sideways and cause cancer cells. So they're saying some of this meat can actually give you cancer when you eat it. So that's why other states are just banning it outright. Like Italy did it on religious grounds. This bill is just to label it so people know what they're eating, and then they can make that choice on their own if they're willing to risk their health with it.
Representative Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for bringing this back again. Last year, unfortunately, you were here several times, and we really did not have the opportunity to pass it out. Hopefully, we will be able to this year. But I wanted to just thank you for bringing it back.
Absolutely.
I've got one more question. Lewis Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start by saying I haven't eaten meat in 40 years. I think this is fantastic. I'm just wondering, how does the consumer know the difference in taste between the self-cultured meat and...
So the self-cultured meat are lab-grown or synthetic. Anyway, there's no real good way to say it. There's no appetizing way. It's where regular meat is red, this right here would be more pink colored, almost kind of like a pink Play-Doh looking color. And then it's a very bland taste is what they described it as. Does not have the taste of regular meat because it doesn't have the fat content and the growth. I mean, this stuff actually, when they put it in the centrifuge, the muscle starts contracting and growing just like a regular animal's does. It's amazing if you got to see it. It's the craziest thing you've ever seen. But it does not have the same taste or texture as regular meat.
Okay. Representative Carter.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for bringing it back. But my question today, are these lab-grown meats, I hate to call them meats, currently being sold in restaurants in Georgia?
No, not yet. It's just now being commercially, they've just now got it to where the price down now to where they can start commercially doing it. California is probably the only two, is the two main ones that they're fixing to start distribution though probably within the year.
Right. I appreciate the bill. I told you I appreciated it last year too, but I would prefer that we work on not allowing it coming into Georgia, period.
Well, that's a great idea too.
Thank you. We're going to hear the Georgia Restaurant Association, Scott Bierman, he's here and he wants to speak to this bill as well. Scott, you got the podium.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Yeah, we had two menu labeling bills, so Stephanie and I figured we'd just split them up. We'll both come up and talk to you guys today. Again, we saw this bill last year, so my comments will be very similar. On the cell-grown meat portion, we are in complete alignment with the bill. When we bring it up to our members, everybody thinks it's weird. Nobody wants to eat a cell-grown ribeye. I don't want to do that. And we don't have anybody in the state of Georgia who sells those now. We have 2 restaurants nationwide that sell these, one in California, one in Washington, D.C., and on their menus, it's not even a full-time thing. It's like a special menu day you go by. So we know, again, that's not a big issue. Our only concern with the bill is the inclusion of plant-based meat alternatives in this and the labeling requirement on those. Those are so widely available now. You go to any restaurant, you see an Impossible Burger, a veggie burger on there. Restaurants aren't trying to trick folks into eating vegetables. They want to put it out bright and center so we can get folks who are vegetarian or vegan to come into sports bars, barbecue places, and know they have an option as well. So, we'd hate to see that in there where it's a potential health code violation where you get a knock on your health code score because you didn't label it the way the health inspector thought you should label it. But on the cell-grown side, we're with you. We're on that. Just we'd ask the committee to consider pulling out that portion on the plant-based alternatives.
Any questions from Mr. Bierman? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all so much.
I think that concludes our business today. Representative Ford, would you, you got a little announcement I think you wanted to make?
Yes, I do. On behalf of the Georgia Agribusiness Council, myself and Representative Howard are on the board. We would like to let everybody know there is a reception today starting at 5 o'clock at the Freight Depot in the Blue Room. And tomorrow there is the legislative breakfast that starts doors open at 7:15. So I know that Will and Jake would love to see y'all there, and we would too.
Okay, that concludes our business. Thank y'all, the Ridley brothers, for being here with that bill, and meeting adjourned.